Hey guys, Zom Fox here, and today we're going to be talking about the two big quarterback moves that happened last week in the UFL, in Kellen Mond going to the San Antonio Brahmas and Quinten Dormady going to the Memphis Showboats. Now, these are two moves that are, of course, huge moves for the UFL, as we are talking about the quarterback position. And while we've had a lot of question marks about which of the big boys, like, AJ McCarron and Luis Perez, are they going to return or not, we did see these two guys officially go to these teams. Now, Dormady, as you can probably imagine, wasn't a normal signing, it was a trade. So we're going to look at which move I think is actually better. Now, yes, this all happened over a week ago, but especially the Dormady move, I really wanted to kind of just sit on it and think about it, because my initial reaction to the move was very negative, and, well, you'll see what my reaction is after it. Now, first and foremost, exactly what the moves were. Of course, on the 21st of October and the 24th of October, we had Kellen Mond go to the San Antonio Brahmas on the 21st. And on the 24th, we saw the trade of Quinten Dormady and Jordan Ferguson, where Jordan Ferguson was sent to San Antonio and Dormady was sent to Memphis. Now, as for that move itself, the trade of Dormady for Ferguson. Now, Ferguson is one of those guys who very much was an under-the-radar player last year just due to the fact that he was on a terrible Memphis team. The fact is he was one of the better linebackers in the league last year. Again, very under the radar player because he wasn't one of the truly elite level talents, like Gabriel and Speaks in a way, or Frank Gidna before the injury. So we really didn't talk about him, but his 5 sacks and 7 TFLs were both really good numbers across the entire league. And when you add into the fact that he had 29 solo tackles, he was really one of the better linebackers in the league. The only issue, I should say, is that he didn't actually really force any turnovers. But all in all, he was one of the better linebackers in the league. As for Dormady was a not-so-great passer. Now, apologies for not showing the passer rating on there. The Fox's site has been bugging out the past couple days. But he had like a 77 passer rating, so not great. And his overall stats aren't the best either. He didn't complete 60%. He was close, but didn't. And his passing yards a game were less than 200, 6 TDs to 6 interceptions, and he lost 3 fumbles. Look, we talked about it before. Basically, he had that one really great half against Michigan. Then after that first half, he kind of just fell off. Look, we give a lot of crap to Chase Garbers last year because of his postseason performance, which admittedly that championship game performance was horrific in so many ways. But people need to stop trying to do revisionist history. Chase Garbers was a better quarterback than Quinten Dormady last year in almost every way. Chase Garbers was a more efficient and just overall safe QB than Dormady. The only issue with Garbers was that once it came to the championship game when he had that alleged NFL offer, he decided he didn't want to play too hard, as everybody agrees on, and he had some of the worst plays you'll ever see. But across the season, Dormady was the second best quarterback on San Antonio, and he even got benched in a game for Kevin Hogan, of all people, which some people at the time actually expected Hogan to keep starting. So Dormady wasn't really all that great last year, and this is very similar to his time with the Guardians. This is somebody who basically gives you like 1 or 2 good games a year, and that's pretty much it. Just like Josh Love, who a lot of people were expecting to be the starting quarterback of the Showboats next year if he returns. But with this move, for the Showboats' sake, I hope this is Wisenhunt viewing that this is like the best QB he has available to him. But the only issue with that is that the biggest issue was the offensive line. The Showboats' offensive line allowed 13 more sacks than any other team had. Look, the Houston Roughnecks had 26 allowed, and that was 13 less than Memphis. Memphis almost allowed 4 sacks a game. And yes, as I've talked about it before, some of the issues were on Cookus and T-Will not throwing the ball away quickly. At the same time, a quarterback shouldn't be forced to throw the ball within 2.5 seconds every single play, which is almost what they had to do. Now, as I talked about before, both these guys, in Cookus and T-Will, had a lot of high expectations and both floundered at meeting them, and a lot of that was due to the offensive line, and some of it was a mix of them not performing to their best ability. So, getting Quinten Dormady, I really don't understand the whole point, right? You're getting a guy who is just a more turnover-prone QB than these other guys, right? Because you took 2 guys, put them on a terrible offensive line, and that made him throw more turnovers or, fumble more. Whereas with Dormady, he already turns the ball over a lot, and if you don't fix the offensive line, you're putting him behind a terrible offensive line again. So, I'm going to be honest, I would argue the Brahmas may have won this trade directly. I mean, this feels like the Brahmas got the better player, and I just see it that way. I understand that, quarterback's important and all that. The fact is Dormady is not a great quarterback in the spring level, he is a very, very capable backup quarterback in the spring level. He's like a lot of these NFL backups that are able to come in for a game or two and ball out, and then they end up falling back to earth. That's Quinten Dormady in spring football. We have yet to see anything that proves otherwise. Again, he had like one awesome game in the XFL, he had one great half in the UFL, and that's pretty much it. So, because of that, I would say that the Brahmas arguably won that trade. Now, we go to Kellen Mond. Now, Kellen Mond is a very, very weird player in a sense that this was a third-round pick who was off the team that drafted him in a year. Now, I know there's some sort of like, Mond-Zimmer beef kind of thing that went on, but the point is that there was one game where Kirk Cousins couldn't play. Everybody expected Mond to play. He didn't. He got relegated to the backup in the game where the backup ended up playing. He came in the fourth quarter, threw 3 passes, and that's literally all the NFL stats he has. He has only been on the active roster 2 seasons. In the past 2 years, he's been practice squad guy, and now is with the Brahmas. Again, for a third-round pick who was really good at Texas A&M is crazy, but at A&M, he was a legit starter for really 3 years, and all those 3 years, he was a very, very good QB. He ended up almost having 10K yards passing and 1,500 rushing. He did get the 1,500 rushing, but he was an overall solid QB, 71 to 27 TD interception ratio passing, and he had 22 touchdowns on the ground. His completion percentage went up year after year after year, but again, we haven't seen him do anything in the NFL level. Now again, in a talent-wise perspective, this is a great QB. In a size perspective, 6'3", 211. He's not one of the Bryce Young type of super short QBs, so this is somebody who I think can be very capable in the UFL level. The only issue is the fact that he hasn't gotten any real game time that isn't, preseason since 2021 where he was in for a quarter. So the only thing that I think that could hold him back is the fact that he hasn't gotten a ton of game time experience. But even then, I don't really think that's a big issue. The fact is I think Mond is going to be a very capable QB for the Brahmas. On a talent perspective, this is the most talented QB the Brahmas have had when you look at what they had last year versus this upcoming year. As if Kellen Mond is able to just be a slightly better Chase Garbers, in theory, the Brahmas should be back to being a title contender. And that's the truth. So this is a move I really do like for all those reasons. This is a guy who very much could help the Brahmas win a championship if he ends up living up to the hype. And the most important thing, he is from San Antonio. He went to Texas, or he went to college in Texas. This is somebody that can also help their rating or their attendance issues. Now, their attendance wasn't terrible. It just wasn't as good as it was in 2023. And this is a guy who could, in theory, actually help it if he starts because he's a hometown kid. He's from San Antonio. He went to college in Texas. So I like that move in that regard as well. So this is a move I really do enjoy. Now, which move was better? Obviously, I think the Kellen Mond move was better. Number one, it actually is going to affect attendance, which of course is the UFL's number one thing they need to fix this upcoming season. Number two, he's just a better quarterback. Again, I know I talk a lot about, guys who play spring football versus guys who haven't. You never know how guys who don't play spring football will adjust to it. But even if he doesn't adjust well, he only has to adjust decently enough to be better than Dormady. Again, I really hope for the Showboats fans' sake, because I know there's a lot of you here on the channel, I really hope that Dormady works out for you guys. But this is a move that I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being like the backup or third-string quarterback pending what guys re-sign and stuff. I mean, you're not going to tell me that legitimately he's a better QB than Case Cookus or even T. Will. He's just not. Now, I did say on a tweet that I do think the Josh Love Dormady experiment could work if you play it like the 2022 New Jersey Generals. I know a lot of people hate that QB situation where you kind of flip-flop guys, but trust me, this is one of the times it could work. Because Dormady and Love are very much the same quarterback. They'll give you about 2 great games a season, and the rest of the season is mediocre to terrible play. If you're going to flip-flop them, you might be able to somehow get the best out of both of them, because if you get the worst out of both of them, you already were going to get that. But if you're able to make the best out of them, you can have a really good duo, because Josh Love has had some games, especially the games with Michigan where he was good, where he looked like the best QB in the league. And Quinten Dormady has had a couple of incredible games. The first half against Michigan last year, and that game against the Defenders, if I'm not mistaken, in the XFL. He can play incredible too. It's just that they can't sustain it. So if that's the plan, I could understand it. But if they're signing T-Will or they're signing Cookus or they're going to sign somebody else, then I don't get it. Especially not for a backup QB when you gave up pretty much your best performing defensive player last year. But that'll do it. This has been ZomFox. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. We've had a bunch of huge signings over the past week and a half. Right, we saw Abram Smith return to the Defenders, Justin Hall to the Roughnecks, Chris Garrett return to the Battlehawks, among a bunch of other moves. We're getting really into the start of a bunch of huge moves for the UFL. So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. I might do a roster video or talk about some of the big moves next week or something. I don't know for sure. Again, we are less than 100 subscribers away from 1,000 where we are doing a giveaway. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, have a great night.